Hi, I'm Eddie Reyes, and I'm going to walk you through setting up MindSight. MindSight is a product that helps you observe the behavior of your code in production as your customers are using your product. This data helps improve your software engineering process and helps make changing your product safer and helps you better serve your customers. Before getting started, please contact us to set up your account. We'd be happy to help you out with that. You can reach us at support@MINDSIGHT.IO. In order to do the steps that I'm about to walk you through, you're going to need some API credentials, and once we set up your account, we'd be happy to give those to you. So the first step, once your account is set up, is to run the MindSight agent. You can find the MindSight agent at our GitHub. If you go to github.com/mindsightco/hotpathagent. This is the repository for our agent, and we have some basic instructions here in the README. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into our releases page, and we're going to download the latest release of the agent, which is 1.2.1 as of this recording. And this is simply just a single Linux binary. So now that the agent has been downloaded, let's go ahead and copy it over into this location where we're going to be working. Let's give it execute permission. So in order to run the agent, as you see in the instructions in the README, you're going to need some API credentials. Namely, you're going to need a client ID and a client secret, and we'll get those to you. So this right here is a client ID and a client secret for a demo account that we're going to be using for this demonstration. So set up these environment variables with the correct values, and you simply run the agent without any arguments. And now the agent has connected to our backend API and has also started a local HTTP server at port 8000. The purpose of the agent is to collect and aggregate data points from your different servers and from the various infrastructure that you might have running your product. And your product, your code will be running in your servers, and it's going to have its own MindSight client embedded within your program. But the data collected by this client will be sent to the agent, and the agent, authenticated as your account, as identified by these keys, will send the data to the MindSight backend for further analysis on the dashboard. So now that the agent is running, let's go ahead and set up MindSight on a sample Java application. In this case, we're going to use a simple to-do web app that uses Spring, the Spring framework, and uses MySQL. And just like any other to-do web app, it'll be a simple browser interface that lets you add. We have an archive here that we can run. So in order to run this with MindSight, we're going to need the MindSight jar file, and that jar file contains our Java agent. And the Java agent is how we're going to inspect the running state of your program. And we'll see here in a second how to run this with the MindSight Java client running as a Java agent and the needed configuration. So the first step is to get the MindSight jar file and put it somewhere handy, like just right inside the target directory. So we have the two archives side by side, easily accessible for us. And then the next step is to set up some environment variables that tune the behavior of the MindSight Java client. The first one is an environment variable called MindSight agent, and this points to the agent that we have started a few moments ago and is still running over here on port 8000. The next environment variable is MindSight project. And MindSight project is basically an identifier that we maintain in your account in our backends that helps you distinguish between different applications whose behavior you want to measure. So in this case, we've already set one up in this demo account called to-do. So we'll set this environment variable to just the name of the project, to-do. And then the next step is an environment variable called MindSight modules. And MINDSIGHT modules is going to limit the code base that we're going to analyze. And in this case, we want to analyze just the code inside of the to-do app. We don't want to analyze, all the third-party dependencies in the Java runtime. And the to-do web app is contained inside of a Java package called com.example. And you can see that if you do a find on the source tree, you can see that the package is com.example.other stuff. For this configuration, it's only necessary to set up the prefix of the package name that you want to analyze. So if we do com.example and we set that inside of MINDSIGHT modules, com.example.everything else will be included in the analysis. And you can add multiple modules. It's just comma separated. You can add, com.something else if you want to. In this case, we're just going to analyze com.example. Let's clear our screen so we have some more real estate here. And after the environment variables are set up, we're just going to go ahead to the Java command line. And the first argument that we're going to need to the Java command line is going to be the Java agent flags. So Java agent is going to use our MINDSIGHT jar, which we've copied inside of the target directory. And then the Java agent is going to have its own set of arguments, 2 of them as a matter of fact. And the first one is going to be called reporter, and that's going to be set to io.mindsight.client.javaclient. And then the next argument is going to be called sample interval. And sample interval is a value in milliseconds. And what this means is that every 100 milliseconds, MINDSIGHT via the Java agent will briefly interrupt your program to inspect the running state of things, including stacks, stack traces, and things like that. And since this only runs every 100 milliseconds, or really as often as you set up here, it doesn't really impact the overall performance of your application, since we very briefly pop in and do a couple quick things every now and then. And it doesn't really add a lot of overhead to the performance and the stability of your application, which is the neat way that MINDSIGHT is safe to run in production. As I said, you could tune this and you can make this be less aggressive or a little bit more aggressive. The most aggressive you can make it is 50. It doesn't go below 50. But you can safely set it to something like 100 or a couple hundred milliseconds if you so choose. And that's it for the Java agent flags. Finally, we'll set up our class path. We'll just add both our archives to the class path. And we'll also add the to-do archive. That's what it's called. And then finally, the last argument is to run the main function, which is inside of this archive. And that will start the application. It's initializing, connecting to the database. And there you go. This application is now running with the MINDSIGHT client active inside of it and listening on port 8080. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like. And here is the simple to-do list application. It's really no frills. You can just add some random tasks. Let's call this reminders. And it will call our web application and add this as a to-do reminder. And you can mark it as complete and update the tasks. And we can add another one. I don't know, let's call it groceries. Let's category food. And there you go. And we can click this button to make it work a little bit more behind the scenes so that the MINDSIGHT Java client has a chance to run a few times and collect some data. So now that the client has been running for a little bit and we've been using the application somewhat aggressively, let's take a look and see what has been logged in the MINDSIGHT dashboard. So if you go to dashboard.MINDSIGHT.IO and you log in with your GitHub, it remembers my login. Your GitHub account is associated with your MINDSIGHT account. And here we see the data that has been logged from the running Java application. From here on, you can add some additional integration into your development process using MINDSIGHT, especially with our deploy hook. If you look in our GitHub, and if you go to our deploy hook repository, you can see some instructions to get started. And the idea behind the deploy hook is that every time you deploy a commit to your production environment, you let MINDSIGHT know so that MINDSIGHT can keep track of how your application's behavior is changing across your code changes and help you get visibility into the overall impact of your code changes and how that impacts the runtime of your application and ultimately your customer experience. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at support@MINDSIGHT.IO, and we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to help you get started using MINDSIGHT. Thank you very much. Have a good day.